Student of the way, have you ever wished to speak with such precision that the room falls silent? Not through anger, not through force, but through clarity, the sharpest weapon in the dojo of the mind. In every conflict, whether with a superior, a family member, or someone trying to bend your spirit, the warrior of stillness does not shout. He speaks with intention. And intention silences more than volume ever could. Today, I will give you 5 responses forged for the disciplined mind. Use them correctly, and you will watch even the loudest opponent lower their voice and step back into themselves. Pay special attention to response 3. When mastered, it disarms even the most skilled manipulator. Stay until the end, fellow warrior, because once you learn these responses, you will understand why silence and respect follows the one who walks the way. Student of the way, every warrior has felt this frustration. You speak with logic, with calm, with truth, yet the other person refuses to hear, not because they are right, but because they are louder. In the world, many confuse volume with strength, aggression with authority, and fear with respect. But that is not respect. It is temporary domination, the victory of an undisciplined mind. In the dojo of life, true power is different. It is the ability to speak with such clarity and control that the other person must listen. Not because you force them, but because your presence leaves no room for chaos. Response 1. Student of the way. I do not need to raise my voice to be right. In the dojo of life, many believe volume creates authority. They shout, interrupt, and try to pull you into the fire of their emotions. But the moment you match their chaos, you abandon the way. A warrior of stillness steps out of the noise without stepping out of the conversation. When another tries to dominate the air with aggression, you remain grounded and say calmly, I do not need to raise my voice to be right. This is not weakness, it is mental dominance. In that instant, the atmosphere shifts. You are no longer reacting, you are leading. The ancient masters taught that self-control is the highest form of strength. A tongue without discipline becomes a slave to emotion. But a calm voice in a storm reveals who truly holds power. You do not shout because your logic is enough. You do not impose because your presence already does. And when you speak with serenity, even the loudest opponent feels the silence. Response 2. Student of the way. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. When someone attacks with sarcasm, mockery, or contempt, the untrained mind mirrors that energy. But the warrior of the way does not descend into the mud. This response is a mirror, clean, calm, and sharp. It does not strike back. It simply reflects the truth the other person is revealing. When you say, the way you speak says more about you than it does about me, you remove the poison from their words. You refuse their game. You refuse their script. And in that refusal, you reclaim the dojo of the moment. Marcus Aurelius taught, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. This phrase is the living embodiment of that teaching. When you do not react as expected, you shift the entire dynamic. You maintain your peace, and you force the other person to confront their own disrespect. The ancient masters understood this. It is not what happens to you, but how you respond that reveals your character. And when you respond with clarity instead of chaos, The silence that follows is respect earned, not demanded. Student of the way, in any argument, remember this truth. You do not win by shouting. You win by responding with precision. The ancient emperors understood this. They ruled vast kingdoms not through rage, but through composure. Whoever controls themselves controls the situation. Serenity was their weapon, self-control, their power. Today's world rewards impulsive reactions and careless words, but the one who responds with intelligence becomes an anomaly, a presence others remember even when they disagree. Seneca taught, to speak in anger is to shoot an arrow without aiming. One reckless phrase can close doors, damage respect, or wound someone you never meant to harm. These responses are not tools for humiliation. They are shields, elegant, disciplined, forged to protect your dignity without violence. Because when you speak with clarity, calm, and confidence, you are no longer arguing, you are leading. Response 3. Student of the way, let's talk when we can do it respectfully. Not every exchange is a conversation. Some are attacks wearing the mask of dialogue. When someone interrupts, raises their voice, or tries to impose their truth, remember, you are not obligated to fight in a dirty dojo. This phrase is not retreat. It is a declaration of standards. When you pause, breathe, and say calmly, let's talk when we can do it respectfully, the entire axis of the moment shifts. The issue is no longer the argument. It is the minimum level of respect required to continue walking the way. The ancient warriors taught, you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control what you accept. And this response is acceptance with boundaries, firm, clean, and disciplined. You do not shout. You do not explain. You simply set the emotional perimeter of your dojo. And in that moment, the other person must face themselves. Because whoever cannot speak with respect loses the privilege of speaking with you. Response 4. Student of the way, I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. There are moments when speaking further serves no purpose. The other person is not listening, not understanding, only trying to win. This phrase becomes your shield. It does not ask for permission. It does not justify itself. It simply closes the dojo door. When someone provokes you, when every word they speak carries poison, you do not explode. You breathe, center yourself, and say with calm authority, I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. The effect is immediate. You cut the toxic dynamic at its root and reclaim control of the moment. Marcus Aurelius taught, choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed. By choosing not to continue, you protect your energy, your focus, and your dignity. This is not surrender. It is elevation, the warrior rising above the battlefield. Some doors must be closed, and sometimes closing that door is the greatest act of strength a student of the way can perform. Response 5. Student of the way, that is your opinion, and I respect it, but I do not share it. Not every disagreement is a battle. Sometimes it comes from those close to you, friends, family, fellow travelers on the path, who try to impose their worldview without realizing they are crossing your boundaries. This response is not confrontation. It is definition. It says, I hear you, I value you, but I walk my own way. When someone insists on convincing you, pushing their belief, their judgment, their decision, you do not argue point by point. You simply breathe. Remain grounded in your inner citadel and say calmly, "That is your opinion, and I respect it, but I do not share it." What follows is powerful. They are forced to accept your stance because you are not attacking theirs. You are affirming your own. Seneca warned, "To be a slave to the opinion of others is the worst of all prisons." This phrase is the key that unlocks that prison. It is an elegant declaration of independence. I think for myself. I walk my own path. I do not need your approval to follow the way. Use this response often, and you gain something rare in this world: emotional independence. And when others realize they cannot pressure you, they begin to respect you even more. Student of the way. These are your 5 tools of the inner citadel. I do not need to raise my voice to be right. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. That is your opinion, and I respect it, but I do not share it. Do not underestimate their strength. When you practice them, you will notice the world shifting around you. People listen more carefully. They tread more lightly, because you are no longer easy to provoke. You are a presence. Here in the dojo of Master Yosho, you learn to think, speak, and act with the wisdom of the ancient warriors, so you may walk the way with respect, inner peace, and unshakable discipline. Subscribe and continue your training, student of the way. What comes next will transform you. And tell me in the comments, which of these responses will you master first?